forging a mindset that's unbreakable and taking away those limiting beliefs that stop you from being able to attain the things that you want to attain.
Yep.
Right now, we've had lots of offline discussions about what that means in context. Now, a limiting belief is when you place you're placing a state on something, right? It's imagine you're trying to get to the end of the month, right? And you need to make $3,000.
Yeah.
Right. So, whether that's coming in a paycheck, whether you're waiting for a bonus, whether you've got a side hustle that you're doing, what you're doing is when you go, I only need $3,000, I'm going to make $3,000. What's happening is you're limiting yourself to only making $3,000. Yeah. And when you speak,
I would articulate it. I need to make $3,000, so that's where I set my target to. Versus you're limiting what you're going to go after because you're saying I'm only going to make $3,000.
Yeah. So it's changing the mindset around limitations.
Yeah.
So that you can forge a mindset that allows you to extend that. Because I find, especially when you talk about dreams, right, and you kind of articulate where you want to be, and you can have the aim for the moon dream, right? Yeah. I want to make $1 billion. I want to do all these things. That's great. There's nothing wrong with big dreams. In fact, I say dream all the time. But in that, there's a process you've got to go through to attain said dream. Right.
I think you trigger a thought for me, like little boys. My son, for an example, in his room, I really noticed this over the past year. He has this like list of things that are making him boys or whatever. One of the last ones is dream big.
Yeah.
And think about how many little boys I want to be a firefighter, a cop, army, a professional athlete.
Yeah.
And then a dad at some point along the way, or a coach or a person in their life that's older, that's been around the block, goes, let's be realistic, kid.
Yeah.
And then there's a limiting belief.
Yeah. And again, I don't want to knock the people who say that. They're saying that there's two types of in that. The one comes from a point of care.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm trying to keep their mindset in a real,
they're trying to set expectations, right? Don't be realistic.
They don't want you to be disappointed. Right. And I get that, and I understand that, and I'm the first one to go, I know why they're doing it. Here's why it's not a good idea.
All right.
No matter what you do when you grow, and this goes for us now in our 40s, going through things, this goes for you when you're a little kid.
Yeah.
Disappointment and failure is part of growth.
Yeah.
It's going to happen.
Yeah.
What you should never stifle is the idea that you should always aim high.
All right.
Right? Never ever aim low. You're aiming as high as you possibly can. In fact, if your dream is, if you think your dream is big enough and it only involves you, you're not dreaming big enough.
I agree.
It has to involve so much more. Where the work comes in is, and I think where limiting beliefs start showing themselves, is when we start moving towards trying to achieve something. And as you grow older, you realize that you've got to break it into chunks. That if I want to be a billionaire, I need to probably start a company. If I'm going to start a company, I'm probably going to have to find something that works in the market. In order to make it work in the market, I'm going to have to grab a whole bunch of skill sets. And then I'm going to have to grab a whole bunch of people who have the similar skill sets. Yeah. And most likely, right, it's going to fail.
Yeah.
However, nothing you do, nothing, and we're going to reiterate that word, nothing you do that you failed at is a failure. You will gain something from it. You will gain skill sets. You will gain mindset. You will gain fortitude, toughness. You will figure things out as you fail.
I'll give an example. I mean, I think where we're at with the podcast, we met. One of the first things you said to me when we met is we're going to start a podcast.
Yeah.
And I'm like, sweet. I've been wanting to do that, right? But leading up to that point, I have tried to start things on my own, and I failed multiple times and never could get anything to materialize and take off and get going. And is that failure? No, I think it's falling forward.
Yeah.
And it's learning, but it's giving us also, we both bring our experiences to the table, but it's giving us a background in I did this, it didn't work, that worked, this didn't work, that worked, I learned this, I learned that, and now we're able to materialize and pull things together. Yeah. And we're still figuring it out as we go, but
100%.
It's the idea that if you want to sit here and go, I'm going to throw in the towel and walk away from it and never touch it ever again, Well, then, yeah, I guess it is a failure because you didn't do anything about it. And in this case, we're allowing those setbacks or those shortcomings to be helpful to the way forward because we didn't give up and we kept pushing forward.
And again, is in the journey you're going to take and in the dreams you have, dreams change, outcomes change. Just because you aimed at 7 years old to be a specific place, I want to be an astronaut, right? And then you realize that in order to be an astronaut, I've got to have this much level of science knowledge, biology knowledge, mathematics knowledge. And maybe those things, I think anybody can do it. I think it's just a question of, does it resonate with you? And if it doesn't resonate with you, because having an idea of something, a big dream is great. But as you start taking that journey, you start realizing what goes into that dream. And I think a big portion of that is passion.
Yeah.
So if you start doing something, you realize, well, you know what, it sounded cool because I saw it, but I'm not passionate about it. But in the event of chasing that, you're going to develop skill sets. You're going to learn things. You're going to meet people. You're going to start rearranging where you go. And it's important, especially for men as you age, don't lose the ability to dream. Don't lose the ability to aim high. Don't lose the ability to look at the moon and go, I'm shooting for that.
Yeah.
And how it changes as you get older is, maybe when you're younger, you're attaining for things because those things come with the idea of fame, or they come with the idea of, we all do everything. Everything we do is for love and acceptance. That's why we do everything, right? That is the drive of the human nature. We're doing everything for love and acceptance, right? When you're a small kid and let's say you see a pro wrestler on TV, you say, I want to become that pro wrestler. Why do you? Because everyone admires him, he's loved, he's famous. For what you're perceiving when you see him is something that you want to embody because you're looking for love and acceptance. Now, in order to become said pro wrestler, you have to realize that he went through a hell of a journey to get there and a hell of a work. And that may not resonate with your journey, but the idea is still solid. And as you progress to that, you're going to learn. And as you get older, you start realizing that it's not about fame for everyone else. It's about having the people that are important to me, right? Your spouse, your girlfriend, the people around you, your friends. What you want is love and acceptance from them. And then the goal set, the dreams don't change, but the reasoning around the dreams change. How you want to attain them change. And it's very important that you don't set limiting beliefs. Now, it's not the big limiting beliefs, right? Those big limiting beliefs, they're not good, right? So I want to make $1 billion, right? But I'll never be able to, right? That's a limiting belief. I'm already telling myself I can't attain it.
Would you agree with this? I believe we have subconscious limiting beliefs that occur.
Oh, absolutely.
All the time, right? And
I think those ones are the dangerous ones.
They're the dangerous ones, but I think one of the biggest ones that's right in front of us that people probably don't accept, that people don't realize it's a limiting belief, is the safety of a paycheck from your corporate job.
Yes.
And I live this, and I think to kind of tie this into a path. So you have these huge dreams as a kid growing up, right? Whether it's, in my case, I wanted to play professional baseball. That didn't work out. So then I'm going to go be a millionaire. Okay, let's make them those two big scales, right? Well, how do you become a millionaire when you're 18 to 25 years old and you're just getting set out and you're like, well, make lots of money. Well, how do I do that? I don't know. Go get a job. So I go get a job. But I didn't realize, how do you actually go do it, right? And so I get this job because I got to pay bills, got to do stuff. Well, then you fall into that path, right? And so you fall in the path of I'm an employee now, and you're taught in the company's organization, climb and grow the ladder. Get pay raises, things like that. And then at my corporate job, they offered stock programs and incentives, and that's where they would all brag, especially the ones that have been with the company for a while. I'm a millionaire. And they had stock and options that made them millionaires. And you go, oh, that's the way. Let me do that. But the reality is it's very complicated to climb the ladder, and it's very complicated, and it's subject to people's opinions, and you get fallen into this cycle or this trap. And then you just accept the status quo of what life is. And then one day, like in my story, you wake up and go, what happened to the guy that dreamed big? All the dreams went away. What happened to the guy that actually had these big visions and ideas and was happy and enjoyed life, and it's completely gone, and it's no longer a person that I recognize looking in the mirror at myself. And I was like, holy crap. And I had to reinvent myself.
Yes. Because you what happens is you start attributing to the comforts, right? You take you take the path of least resistance.
Yeah.
Right. And generally, everyone will go through this journey. You take this path of least resistance. You know what? I want to do this thing because I now realize that what I thought I want to do is really hard. And dreams are for little kids. I shouldn't be doing this, and I need to kind of get my head out the game and just follow that 3D mark that they give me, which says that you have to get up, go to work, finish up, build up your pension, retire, die. Yeah. Right. And the idea of that is if you follow that path and it makes you happy, that's all good.
Yeah, to each their own.
But I've met very few people in this world, very few, and this is my personal opinion, it may be different for others, but I've met very few people that are sufficiently happy in that comfortable environment, as you said, with the secure paycheck and everything's set for me, and I know I'm going to get my paycheck next week and I don't have to worry about this. And I can tell you, as someone who spent a lot of time in corporate, right? I worked through corporate jobs. I mainly worked through corporate jobs to help me pursue my dream. So I realized that what I want to pursue is something that I'm going to have to take time in to make money from. Yeah. And I used corporate jobs to do it. And I never lost sight of the dream. And I realized in the corporate world is it's this comfort base that you create for yourself. It's comfortable. I'm getting a paycheck as long as I don't stir up. I do what I need to do. But I'm very rarely... In fact, I have never met anybody in a corporate job who sits there and goes, I wish I could do things on my own. And then having, on the flip side, been an entrepreneur and having done many different endeavors, I can tell you this, is the entrepreneurship route and owning your own business is not an easy route. No. It's an extremely difficult route, but it's very rewarding because there's a period in everybody's life, I believe, that you have to realize that it's all on you.
Yeah.
Right. Is you get rid of your safety nets. A safety net might be parents that you can rely on, and my parents will be there. It may be a job that you have and say, there'll always be a paycheck here, right? Which is all false senses of security because you're relying on elements that could fall apart at the same time.
Yep.
It's once you realize that everything I want is in my two hands and it's up to me to make it happen.
Yeah.
And then limiting beliefs is anything when you tell yourself you can't.
Right.
The word can't is bullshit. It doesn't exist. Yep. If anybody else has done it, you can do it. If anybody else has dreamt it, it is doable and it's just waiting for the right person, the right time with the right drive to make it happen. Now, that doesn't mean we're all going to be NBA stars, we're all going to be astronauts, we're all going to be the richest men in the world. And realistically, that's not a good way to weigh up. What I found is a lot of people, especially when you hit their 40s, you find a lot of men that hit their 40s and go, I missed the mark. I'm 40 and I didn't make it, and I'm not where I thought I would be because
getting started.
It doesn't work that way. There's no time limit on this.
That's right.
There's no time that says, well, you're 60, I must give up. Bullshit. You give up, die. Yeah. You give up, you die.
The founder of Kentucky Fried Chicken, was it Dave Thomas, I think the guy's name was? Yeah. He essentially took off in his late 60s, I want to say. He was in his late 60s when Kentucky Fried Chicken actually took off.
And let's say that took off, but I can guarantee you, if you could sit with him today and you could talk to him through his entire lifespan from the age of 20, right? You tell me what you did. You will find a dynamic human being that had so much experience. Mm-hmm. And those experiences really what counts.
Yes.
Right now, whether you're getting the experience of trying to run a business or experiences with your family, experience is what we're here for.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah,
experience is what drives us. It's the only thing that's important. You were telling me a great story about how you've changed your mindset on that to go, if there's an experience I can have, I'm not going to limit myself to going, well, we can't, there's no time, there's no money, there's no this. You're going to make it happen.
Yeah. My wife and I were discussing something that she wants to do. And she asked me, she says, do we have the money for that? And I very just matter-of-factly said, nope. And we both had a good laugh about it. And immediately I responded with, but do it anyway.
Yeah.
And the whole idea. Now, one of the things I love about being self-employed, and we both have had these opportunities and conversations, we can really grind, if you will. I hate using the word grind, but we could really work our ass off and make the cash we need to make for things when we need to do it, right? And you have the ability in being an entrepreneur to boost your income at your control. I love that part.
Just by applying yourself and putting the hustle in.
Yeah. So to me, this situation presented itself, and then it also turned into like adding to it a little bit where I was like, just do it. Like, I am so tired of, like, in my corporate days, right? We were always planning for something, whether it was my exit of corporate, whether it was, whatever it was. And it was always this, we don't really have the money. And so I remember when I met my wife, one of the things I said to her, my family didn't vacation a whole lot. It was family vacation to go see family members. And I didn't want that. I wanted us to have experiences. I wanted us to travel. I love to travel personally. I love going to places and experiencing things. I love sporting events, things like that. And I wanted to experience this stuff. And then life happens. We have kids. Kids are expensive. Daycare is really expensive. Daycare is a mortgage payment. And so it would cause us to not do stuff, right? And I have, in the past 12 months, both all the deep work and all the changes and all that stuff, and even really recently, I've gone, I'm not going to let this be the continued reason for us to not have experiences as a family. We will find a way. We will figure it out. We're going to do things. And
there's so many tools and resources available which talk about this exact thing. I'll pull on a couple. Brad Lee, he runs a podcast, and there was a point where they were talking about the changes in administration in the United States, right? You know, if we go this way, taxes would increase. If we go this way, taxes come down. And they said, what do you think about it? He goes, I don't care.
Doesn't care.
And like, what do you mean? If taxes go up, I make more money. I will find a way to continue having the lifestyle I want and drive what I need because I am capable and I can do this. And I found that super insightful about the way that he engaged it.
Yeah. I've heard many that are like that. Like guys like him that are very similar to that, where it's truly like, do politics affect us? Of course they do. But in the end of the day, I'm not going to let it consume me to where it's like debilitating. And I know people like that.
Everything you do, regardless of what's happening around you, your reality exists in your realm. You control the outcome. The outcome is based on output. Limiting beliefs is any time that you put a limitation on what you can make, even if you see it as a positive. I'm going to make $100,000 this year. Why not $1 million?
Right.
Why not $10 million?
Why only 100?
Why only 100? Right? Because you're limiting your capability to 100. Now, on the conscious side, on the logical brain, right? The logical brain makes sense. You know, I'm going to make 100,000. I'm not saying I can't make more. No. When you're doing that, your intuitive brain is going, okay, so that's all we're going to make. That's where we limit it. And then generally what happens is when you set goals, like we've spoken before, like goals are terrible, right? Because when I set that goal, when I hit it, now what? Right?
All the time.
And if you don't have discipline to go, well, you know, let's just keep going. Most people stop. And they go, oh, I've achieved. Right?
It's like weight loss goals and diets, right? I mean, I think we talked about this in an episode, or previously we've had a conversation where I'm going to lose weight for a wedding. I hit that wedding, I lose the weight that I wanted to lose, but now what? I go back to eating like shit, my previous lifestyle, and I balloon right back up. Yeah, because you're not setting and going, well, this is who I am now, and not just continue that process. So I want to reiterate to everybody is limiting beliefs will always kill you. Right. The same as taking criticism from people you wouldn't take advice from allowing others to decide what your path is. Anyone who says you can't do something, walk away from them. I agree.
Anyone says that you're not capable, you're not able to, it doesn't matter what anyone else says. Take the bull by the horns, move forward. In every single step you take, find a way, right? You might have to readjust. It might be a readjustment of skill sets. It might be a complete readjustment of where you're going. But you're still going.
Yes.
And even if you take deviations in the journey, those deviations are valuable, super valuable, because they've changed the trajectory. And I promise you, sitting at the age of 45, having gone through multiple different types of jobs and different types of skill sets and working with people that I thought were the most atrocious people on earth, I learned something from every single one, and I carry it into everything I do, where you start building this arsenal, right? You have this toolbox of skill sets that you can go pick on, where you become this invaluable person that can reiterate as much information as possible. And how do you do that? You become comfortable in the uncomfortable. Never, ever be comfortable. Right? I
agree.
I've gotten to a point in my life that comfort scares me. I don't want comfort, right? And that doesn't mean that I don't enjoy comfortable things. It doesn't mean that I don't enjoy luxurious things. But whenever I'm in a point that I'm comfortable, I'm like, I'm not growing. I need to move forward. I'm stuck in if I feel like I'm stuck in precipice point and I'm not growing or moving forward, I need to find a way to do it. And most of that growth comes in adversity, right? Is in my life, no matter how well things go, they can go well for a point. At some point, life always does this. It always has its ups and there's downs, right? It's about taking these skill sets and these mindsets that we talk about in every podcast and building this fortified iron mental state that when those bad times come, and they will, whether it be financial, health, relationships, it doesn't matter what it is, it will come. When it comes, if you've fortified your mental toughness, those times become so much easier, and you find that overcoming mechanism, and you don't limit yourself to going, okay, well, I'm just going to accept what's happening. You don't accept anything. You look at every aspect of how you can overcome, and a lot of the things you think you're going to overcome will change as you move forward and as you bypass.
Definitely.
It's about being adaptable. It's about being able to pivot. It's about being able to look at something and go, despite the fact that I have this dream, this plan, this journey, this line, this way I'm going, I know and I have accepted that I can only control what I can control. And a million things are going to change multiple times. And it's on me that every time it changes, I find a new direction, a new way, a new avenue, a new thing. And that sometimes that means looking at that and going, this path is blocked.
Right.
I'm going to back up 2 steps and take the next path.
Yep.
It doesn't mean that you always have to follow through. It means that you have to take all the lessons and learning and just never give up on moving forward.
Definitely.
That's the goal set.
Yeah, and I think I have a lot of thoughts around all that. It's really good. I think for me, in my journey, like I look back on pictures and like timelines and places that I was.
Yeah.
And let's call it years ago where I wanted to make a change. I wanted to do different. I wanted to be better. I thought I was pursuing growth. I thought I was pursuing better. But there was like foundationally things that were off. They were wrong. I didn't really know what it was at the time. I was struggling to identify it, but I knew something wasn't right and I didn't know what it was. Fast forward to, 12 months ago maybe. And I was like on the path of really making foundational changes. And then of course I had a big time event happen that I'm not going to discuss, but basically that really caused me to evaluate, stop, pause, and go, okay, what do you do? Right. And I think that's the darkness, let's call it. And I think what I'm ultimately trying to share with our listeners is that you have to like kill the old self.
Yes.
You have like to create a place where I don't have limiting beliefs, like the conversation we had this morning. It doesn't happen without the death of old self. And you hear a lot of people, like a lot of big influencers out there talk about this. I kind of understood what they were saying, but I kind of didn't until I experienced it. And for me, experiencing the growth of, like this past weekend, I'll use this example. The joy I felt for surprising my wife with her best friend flying in was something I can't explain.
Yes.
I mean, it was such a moment of just like, I was so happy to have done that for them because they both appreciated it. But like the feeling I felt would have never occurred if I didn't kill the old self.
Yes.
And break through this like barrier of limiting beliefs that I've had of being the best version ever. But it does create you have to create foundational change.
Yes. You've got to change fundamentally. It's not, you are not your habits. You are not your rage. You are not your emotion.
Yeah.
You are not. No matter how much you are not your ego.
Nope.
Right. Letting go of insecurities and letting go of ego is the first step to taking
insecurities
down in, right? Because once you let go of ego and you let go of those insecurities, it's no longer about you.
I love that you said insecurities because I think about like my journey, and insecure is a perfect word for what I dealt with.
Yeah.
And it's because let's be real, like in my eyes, I was fat and out of shape, right? So why I'm such a proponent of, especially where I'm at today, like the biggest proponent of fitness, is because that's, to me, my number ones are faith and fitness. And you know that about me. And being fit, it gives you abilities to like be like, I don't care whatever. When you look good, when you feel good, you think good.
Yes.
Right? I don't know if that's proper English, but who cares? It's for the layman's lab. But it's true. If I feel good, I look good, I think good, I'm going to be a way more confident person. I'm not going to be insecure. I'm not going to be worried about, like, my wife's beautiful. You've seen her. We have beautiful wives. Well, I don't have to worry about whether or not I'm in shape or looking good or physically capable because I'm doing something about that.
Yeah.
Whereas in the past, and we have someone that we know that we've helped that has dealt with insecurities around fitness and health, and the other one having men, after her. And that's the idea that I'm not worried about that because I also know that I'm just a confident, strong, proud man because of what I've done for myself.
Yes.
And then and the insecurities doesn't just stem with fitness. There's also a place of letting go and having fun.
It's the ego part, and that stems into insecurity. It's walking into a place and not engaging with people socially because you feel out of place.
Yeah.
That's also letting go of comfort and being able to embrace the uncomfortable. It's letting yourself walk into a situation regardless of how comfortable you feel and being confident enough to just be yourself and not. It's the next step of what I would say is the minute that you stop caring, right? And I mean 100%, stop giving a crap what anyone else thinks about your journey.
Yeah.
You conduct yourself as a good human being with a good moral standard, and you do everything right by everyone. What anyone else thinks is irrelevant.
Yes.
And we live in a world where no matter how good you are the bad guy in someone's book, no matter how good you are.
True.
And that changes certain things. Having that said, it's difficult to kind of let go of those things because as men, what happens is there's a competition base in us, right? We all do it, right? We're comparing ourselves to other men. We're comparing ourselves to famous men, rich men, men that are more physically capable of us. But what we're missing is we're seeing a sliver of who they really are,
100%.
right? And we're also seeing a presentation that they're providing who they are. And I can promise you, as much as you might be looking at these guys going, wow, I wish I could be that, there's probably 100 men who look at you and go, I wish I could be like that guy.
Yeah.
Because what happens is the minute you start trying to be something you're not and emulate something that's outside of you, you lose control when you're trying to be something you're not.
That's right.
Or you're trying to attain something you're not. There is no such thing as too late, right?
Yeah, I agree.
A good example that I always try to reiterate to people is I hear people talk about calf development. My calves are small, right? I can't build them, so I don't worry about them. Like, no. Make them as good as you can. Not as good as I can, not as good as you can or anybody else. Make it as good as you can because your standard has nothing to do with me or anybody else.
Yep.
You want to be the best version of you.
Yep.
If you have done everything you can and you make $10,000 a year, that's good enough.
Yeah.
If you've done everything you can and you make $1 million a year, that's good enough. One doesn't override the other. And anybody who tells you it does is lying, is either jealous or doesn't want to give you good advice.
Yeah.
People will give you bad advice, and we live in a world where we're trying to re-encompass the past, the nostalgia of certain things we felt. It's meeting the high school jock from your high school who still lives in high school. The amount of people I've met that literally still live, and they'll tell you, my best days was high school, my senior year was the best day ever. Dude, if your best day was senior year or college, you have some work to do.
I don't remember stuff. I do, but it's just not something I think about. Even honestly, as much as I loved baseball and wish that baseball would have went a different way, I don't remember a lot of stuff anymore because honestly, I stopped thinking about it. I used to think about it all the time.
Yeah.
I used to think in the past of my baseball days or my high school baseball days, and when life was quote good.
Woulda, coulda, shoulda, right?
Woulda, coulda, shoulda, all that stuff. I just don't think about any of that anymore.
It doesn't matter.
I'm proud of my accomplishments, but you're right, it doesn't matter. And I do want to go back to a thought that you had mentioned a little bit ago about not caring what others think. So I have been recently really aware, and I text my wife this when I saw this situation, but I feel that we have an obesity problem in this country. And in my exact text to her was, I said, obesity is such a tragedy.
It is.
And I saw a family. I'm in the store yesterday, and I've got just a couple of things that we needed, but I need to get some more steak because I eat steak every night at dinner. And there's this obese family. Like the dad's like very big, the kids are big, the mom's big, and they're standing where I need to be. And they're taking up, like there's 5 of them, and they're taking up a whole lot of space. They're kind of being a little ignorant to the world around them, which, okay, whatever. And I was just politely standing by to the side. It's like, well, I'll put my cart here and I'll walk around and like come up around the other side to get to where I needed to. Well, the kids moved to where they were in the way. Yeah. Didn't say, I just like, it did end up saying, excuse me, because I wasn't wanting to wait forever. They were taking a while, so I just said, excuse me. So the dad kind of shoos him out of the way, but doesn't acknowledge me, doesn't say anything to me. And it just caused me to go down this rabbit hole of thoughts. And I just feel that and the whole point of even bringing this up, I feel that like a guy like that, a family like that, like it's the dad specifically, morbidly obese, that just stopped caring. Stop caring how he looks, what he feels, what other people see and think of him.
But honestly, it's not got nothing to do with other people. You see, that's always an interesting discussion to me, because when I bring up you shouldn't care what other people think, right? The most important part of that is you should still care what you think.
Well, that's was ultimately where I'm going.
Yeah,
that was ultimately where I'm going.
You still need to have a self-awareness of yourself and how do you want to present to the outside world.
Yeah,
right. Your presentation. Pride is not a good thing either, right? Because pride can help you to a certain degree, but pride can also put you in the negative. It's not the most simple way to put this is.
Maybe I should have said, I want to be proud of myself.
Which is fine.
It's not pride in the ego sense, but proud of my performance. Proud that I have worked. Like for me, one of the things, and we laugh about this, but like if someone sees me that hasn't seen me in a while, they go, you look skinny, I kind of take insult to that, because I'm like, no, I've worked really fucking hard to eat a certain way and lift a certain way to put on size and mass and look strong and muscular, not skinny. So there's a pride factor in that.
However, the fact that bothers you, right? The fact that triggered you, because it did, right? No, it did. And it's not just you. It triggers any guy who's training. Yeah. Because part of that is ego and insecurity. We all have it. I have the same triggers. Yeah. We all have it, right? And when it comes to talking about people that are obese, right? Here's the thing is, if you are the best version you can possibly be of yourself, right? The best version. And there's a ban for that, is if you do not, right, take care of yourself from an aspect of overeating is terrible, right? Like if there's a self-control that comes down to discipline, personal discipline, because if you truly love yourself, if you truly love those around you and you want to be the best version of yourself, you will take care to not do. And I mean, not to go too religious, but those 7 deadly sins are pretty on point. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Lust, gluttony, all those things kind of tie in, because because you do not attain a morbidly obese physique if you do not add in gluttony, right? Which means that you overeat, you don't care how much you eat, you're kind of overly focused on that, and that has become a focal point.
Absolutely.
It's this, and I can flip that on its head, and I can go, if you're so overly concerned with how you look in the gym and how other people perceive you, you're also losing the battle, right? It must be how you perceive you. Yeah. How do I feel about me? How do I feel how I present? Because I don't really care how other people feel. When I get up in the morning, I don't put on a t-shirt and go, hey, I'm going to wear this white t-shirt today because I think other people like it. I put it on because I like it. I like it, yeah. Right? I feel good in it. I want to present myself. I agree. It comes down to cleanliness. It comes down to that self-preservation or self-perception you have on yourself that you want to exude to the world. Because what you want to exude to the world is be the change in the world that you want to see, as we've always said. Yeah. Part of that is presentation. It's not about other people. It's about you. It's about how you feel.
I just think, like, the obesity that we see in the country, there's so much with it. Like, we talk a lot about relationship with food, and importance of like repairing that relationship that people have with food. There's those in the world that something bad happens and they'll just turn to eating and then excessive eating or whatever. I think, even like someone we're helping right now is punishing themselves over food and decisions made in the past and working through that. But I find it so sad when I see a family and like you look at the things that they're buying and like just the choices that they make, and it's truly, to me, it just comes down to lack of being proud of yourself, like me, like wanting to take measures and take steps to say, I'm going to make a change on this. Like, you're going to die an early death. Your heart is going to fail.
True. The sad part about that is they may not. See, the thing is it's less to do. Society wants to, right, and to a large degree does, put these things on top of us. So you're going to die if you don't do that. No,
that's fair.
There's smokers who smoke till 90 years old, and their lungs are pristine, and
my
they die. My
grandfather lived to, I think, 86, 87. He smoked a pipe, chewed tobacco, and smoked cigars.
That doesn't mean those things are good for you, but that is not the core reason why someone should change, right? If we're talking about a father that has a family, is no matter what they tell you, right? They don't like the way they look. They don't.
I agree.
No matter what they tell you, right?
I totally agree.
Because I've known enough people in my life that there's a certain precipice. However, there's trauma and things that have happened to them, right, that have led them to, I wouldn't want to say give up, but in certain senses they've just given up and they said, well, this makes me happy, and they've chosen a path that they feel fills a hole that is actually got nothing to do with the food they eat. It's got to do with all the other problems. It's similar to what addiction does, right? And in that particular case, is you talk often about breaking those generational bonds, those chains that hold curses, us, right? Those curses that hold us. Obesity is a very much a generational curse. It's something that can carry through unless you choose to make sense. Alcoholism is very similar. You'll find generally alcoholism will run through families.
Well, think of it simply like this, right? Is like, and I see, just the everyday person posting things on social media about, hey, your kids are watching. Yeah. They 100% are. They truly are watching, and they're looking to see what you do. They look to see how you act, because in the end, they're going to get those same things. Like my wife and I have a very good experience around this to share. Real quick, let me read the 7 sins. The 7 deadly sins are pride, greed, wrath, lust, envy, gluttony, and sloth. I don't really know what sloth is, but
it's just being lazy.
There you go. Yeah, that's a good point. But my wife, so for her upbringing, her dad was a military guy. Yeah. Very conscious of health and eating. In those letters that we put together, we're reading, he kept constantly, he was in Vietnam, and he was always asking for protein tablets. Yeah. Like literally like Mom, send me protein tablets. Like almost every letter. It was funny. But anyway, he was very health conscious, and even in the he'd asked for I forget what they called it, but it was like a spring with handles at the end of it. You know what I'm talking about? And he was like, "Send those over. I'm getting fat. I don't have a gym here. I don't have the ability to work out." So it was really entertaining. And Sam's like, see how this is what I was raised with, right? Then there was me that didn't have my family had never worked out a day in their life. Mm-hmm. There was no nutritional teaching or anything like that, so I didn't really know things until I got into sports. That's where I learned how to lift weights. Playing sports is what taught me that. I learned a little bit about nutrition, a lot. Mm-hmm. I mostly was like, drink a protein shake after workouts. That's really what I knew about nutrition. Yeah. So very opposite ends of the spectrum when it came to health and wellness. And the whole idea for me was like breaking that generational curse to say, well, I could easily have said, well, I just don't have the genes for it. Yeah. Well, if you like, in my eyes, and I'll share another example of a kid that I know. Mom and dad obese. Mm-hmm. Kid played a sport. I won't say what sport because I don't want to reveal who it is that I'm talking about. The kid went on to play at a Division I level. Yeah, looks phenomenal. And when I knew him, like he was learning fitness and learning stuff, and has really changed that, right? And it's up to him to keep that and to continue it. Yeah. But it's the idea that like he didn't learn that from his parents; he learned it in other places.
I didn't learn it from my parents, and most people don't. Yeah. And going back to how this ties in to limiting beliefs, right? So there's a lot to unpack, and obesity is a good place to start, right? Because where's the advent of it? There's a couple of multiple levels where this goes in. We live in a society which tells us to overindulge. It's
really quick, can I just say, like, to me, saying that, well, my parents were obese or whatever, so I'm just, like, it's my genes.
Why bad genes?
That's limiting belief.
That is all of it is, right? But let's break that down, because this will tie in. So the reason I'm breaking down obesity is because most of the time when you have a limiting belief, there's a complex reasoning behind it, right? There's personal reasons, there's societal reasons, there's multiple things that can layer it. Obesity, specifically in the United States, when you break it down, the first thing is you have a society from a media aspect and company aspect, which drives and tells you eat. Everything's about the next meal and when you're going to eat. From a governmental standpoint, get your 3 meals a day, have a snack in between, never be hungry, right? What happens is, as that drives in, everybody's level of self-discipline, self-control is slightly different, and everybody has a different way of conducting themselves, right? I come from a family that, my family wasn't obese, but they weren't they weren't, I would say, fitness conscious, but they were reasonably healthy people, right? Other people come from a family where they have obesity, right? Now, that's not an excuse. That's just something you came from, because, as you said, there's people who transcend that all the time. But now think about this, right? You live in this super comfortable society. Food is right over here. You know, food stamps.
We could put an order on our phone and it deliver
right here, right? Food stamps are available if you can't afford it, and you can buy all the crap that you want. The foods you consume are super addictive, right? Speak to any immigrant who moves to the United States to say, the minute I move here and start eating the food, I pick up 20 pounds. Because same food, I haven't changed what I eat, right? Same products, but it changes because the additives and everything is designed to create a fat, sloth-like society that's healthy enough to do what they need them to do, but weak enough to fight back, right? And that's diving into a little bit of the on the conspiracy side, but essentially that's what you're trying to build.
It's reality.
Now, there is a large portion of society, right, that is trying to transcend this. We're in our new administration. We have a guy like RFK who's literally trying to end the chronic disease in this country. And he doesn't have an easy job, right? No, now, imagine you're the person, you're this obese person, right? I like my Funyuns. I like eating chocolate for breakfast. I like drinking milkshakes. I like all these things. I like it. That's what I eat, right? I don't want to go walk because it's super difficult. If I step up and I walk from my bedroom to my bathroom, I'm out of breath, right? And attain it for anyone is, even as people who have been athletes for most of our lives, and you really go into these athletic endeavors, when you do something that is super uncomfortable, even for us who are athletic, dude, it hurts.
Yeah, it does.
But it's because of our experiences where we realize that hurt's going to pay us back later. So now imagine RFK is trying to change this limiting belief within society, a society that's driven on all the bad foods, which has created an obesity crisis.
Yep.
In order to change that, right, you can't make it an option. You have to make it, you have to, it's not an option anymore. You cannot buy these foods. You have to do exercise. You want to get government assistance, you better pitch up to the gym 3 times a week. You better go for walks. You better show that you're trying to become a better human being. And it's going to be uncomfortable. And it's not going to be nice because removing yourself, and for anyone else listening, removing yourself from a comfortable position, right? From the couch where I can watch TV, I'm warm, I'm comfortable. Now I'm telling you, you've got to go out in the cold, right? The easy route now will without a doubt create the uncomfortable route later.
Yes.
Or I choose the uncomfortable route now for the comfortable route later, right? It's the same thing. It's just the outcomes are different based on the choices you make today.
Totally.
And that falls within limiting beliefs, because limiting beliefs also are comfort-based. I make a limiting belief because if I limit myself, I can never be disappointed. I can never fail. And I put just enough so I can tell people I've done something, but I didn't really push for the stars. Right? Yeah. And that's part of a limiting belief. So obesity is just a segue that we're using to explain this, but realistically, it all narrows down to the same thing. Yeah. If you say to yourself, I can't ever be an entrepreneur. I'm not entrepreneurial. Bull fucking shit. We're all entrepreneurial. Right, all of us are entrepreneurial. It's human nature. That's the guise of us.
Well, I think it's like you said, it's limiting beliefs. The difference between those that become entrepreneurs and those that don't are the ones that say, I'm going to put my limiting beliefs to a side and I'm going to take a chance and have the guts to do something to make that change. And for me personally, like I think back, whenever I left the corporate world, this was my mindset.
Yeah.
I believed in me, right? I truly believed in me, but I also saw it as corporate's never going to go away. It'll always be there.
Yeah.
But I'll only have one chance to go out on my own.
Yeah.
I mean, meaning like if I don't take that shot, if I don't actually try,
I might never
do it, and I'll never know, and I'll always have regret.
Because you'll get stuck in a point of comfort. And because experience will always rack up comfort. Right. Experiences always do.
That weekly paycheck or however often you got paid for corporate, that's comfort.
It is.
It's truly comfort because it's not, like you and I have talked about this, we don't necessarily know where our next deal is going to come from.
No.
But the corporate job, you know that your paycheck's there every week, every week, right? And there's safety to that.
Well, it's a perceived safety, but for the largest degree, yes, it's a safety net that you go in, and those limiting beliefs will stop you moving forward. And even if you are an entrepreneur, even in the pursuit of greatness, of saying, I'm going to do this, there's limiting beliefs you will place on yourself. Top level athletes have limiting beliefs in regards to what their capability is.
It's true.
People who become, me as an entrepreneur, there's lots of times that I'll sit back and I'll without even thinking about it, I will put a limiting belief. I'm like, well, what am I doing? And then I have to really rehash what I'm doing. I can only do this. No, you can't. You can do anything. You have to just find the mechanisms to strengthen your mind into believing that there's no such thing as can't.
I would argue that, like, for you and I, we've had some limiting beliefs around our podcast, around the community we're trying to create. Like, we've gotten our way a little bit on some of that because our limiting beliefs are around that would be, well, are we truly qualified? Are we really able to help people the way that we think we are? And maybe I'm wrong with that, but like,
it's not. You know what it is. So for anyone listening, is starting a podcast, right? Is the idea that I have to now put myself out there.
Yeah.
And initially, it's the limiting belief. Like, well, what is everyone going to think? Well, I let that go. I don't really give a shit what anyone thinks, right? If you're listening, you enjoy it, great. I don't care.
I never think about that.
And then the difference between starting the podcast and now saying, right, we're going to create a group and we're going to try and help others attain purpose while we're trying to attain ours, and we're learning these skill sets, and we're bringing all these tools and all these experts and people who know what they're doing, and grabbing a bit of good information from a lot of people to build a toolbox for people that they can dig into, and hopefully they can bypass some of the steps we had to go through and others we know and other people in the community, so they can find their purpose and find that happiness.
I mean, I said it, like, I have spent thousands on trying to figure out this guy that I am today. Yeah. And I quite honestly wish I would have met some other folks, you specifically, a little sooner, because I wouldn't have had to spend quite so much money on it. I think there's a place, and you have to spend some, I do believe to overcome. Yeah, you got to put some skin in the game. Yeah. You have to spend money on yourself to overcome things. And I also will say the money that I've spent on bettering myself has put me in the right place, in better rooms, let's say it, better rooms with higher level people than I would get from a local free or lower cost networking type group. Right.
And I think the movement from sitting down and having conversations about these experiences and trying to relay, which we found people get value in. Yeah. The difference I find is when you do a community, what we want is we want as much value as you can get to allow people to be their best. Now, in saying that, right, none of us are responsible for anyone else's growth. Right. All you could do is guide and be a suggestive point where you can give information, but that's all on everyone. Like, your growth is on you.
I remember teaching baseball lessons, and you'd have kids come in every week to see you. And you have 30 minutes with these kids in a week, okay? Yeah. And they would come in the off season a lot of times because I was up north. And you would say, all right, Johnny, you got to practice X, Y, Z. And then Johnny goes home, and guess what, darn it, he doesn't do. Yeah. He doesn't practice. And then he comes back the next week, and we're going to go right over the same things we did before. And I have to say to him, you got to practice because if you don't put anything into it, like, I'm coming in, you're paying me money to come in here and get these tools, and you're not doing anything with them. And it's the same concept as adults. Like, you're paying money, and you're coming into a group to, like, help you figure things out, and we can give you all the tools. If you don't take it and do something with them on your own time, nothing's gonna happen. Build things for yourself. Like, like, the guy that we're helping, one of the things that, like, yes, there's a lot of help that we're providing.
Yeah.
There's a lot of tools and resources that we're giving. There's accountability to a certain degree. But in the end, his results are based on his performance.
100%.
His results, and you and I have talked about this a lot, like, I don't have to, like, we don't check up on each other on things. We don't have to, because we know we're doing the work. Like, we know that we're staying true to ourselves, staying true to our meal plans and our workouts, etc. And I train just as hard when you're not with me as I do when you're with me.
100%.
I train hard.
Because you take accountability for what you're doing. And this goes back into what we want to establish with community is we have a lot of knowledge, right? And a drive to be better. Mm-hmm. That resonates with a lot of people who also want to be in the same boat and are driving to be better on their own journeys.
Yes.
If you take all of those people together and we create a community, what we have is we have a support structure where we can start strengthening each other, right? Which is what men need now, is community together. And that is the goal. And the procrastination that we would have in starting this, right, is ensuring that one thing I cannot stand in this world, I hate these systems that try and tell you they're going to solve all your problems by giving you, follow our method and everything will be okay. No. These are some tools that we can provide you. You apply them. They may work for you depending on how well you apply them and how hard you apply them, but it's not going to be easy and it's all on you.
Yes.
That's the truth.
Well, but I also think we wanted to get it right, so we were methodical about getting it right. So I do think there's that part. So it's not completely a limiting belief. It's just getting it right and exactly what you just said. I think something else... I'll share an example and why I think this community is really important. We talk about this on other episodes, but men truly need community. Okay, we need other men to lean on when the chaos happens.
Yes,
especially as entrepreneurs. Like, and we're focusing more probably on the entrepreneur than the corporate guy, but we go through challenges, but in an entrepreneur's mind and brain, we are 1,000 miles a minute. Sometimes we're bouncing idea to idea. I have experienced firsthand and have learned firsthand that, my wife can't handle my crazy ideas.
Yeah.
So, like, to give her my energy when I'm just bouncing place to place, even when I'm down, when I'm struggling, whatever, she just can't receive that well.
Yeah.
She just doesn't. And I have to be very cautious about what I take home to her. I have to be very cautious about bring my chaos into the house, because it's just not good for her.
I think a good rule with this is, unless she engages you first, you don't say a word. Yeah.
Right. And even then I kind of I filter what she needs to know.
Yes.
Right. Especially, like, in business, sometimes there's some hairy moments financially.
Yeah.
There just is. Right. And you're like, it doesn't stress me out, but it'll stress her out.
Yes.
And so I just got to be like, we're good. Just right now, don't buy that.
Yeah.
Or give me like a week and you can buy that.
Yeah.
One story, briefly, to give an exact example, was this past weekend, a friend coming into town. I made up a bunch of lies to surprise her, and the friend flying in, her flight was delayed by a couple hours. And I was literally like racking my brain. And one of the surprises I did, I had the guy that's been training with us help me put one of them together. And he knew a lot of the ins and outs of what the day was unfolding, because we had put that together. And when the flight was delayed, I was like, what do I tell Sam? She's going to figure this out. Like, I was really trying to scramble. And my reaction wanted to call her friend and be like, what do I tell her?
Yeah.
But what I knew about her friend was she's identical to Sam. And if I would have used her as my outlet, she would have been stressed out in an already stressful situation.
Yes.
Horrible idea.
Yeah.
Okay. So I called the friend who helped me put stuff together and, like, vetted my lie, if you will, to keep the surprise, and said, what do you think about this idea, that idea, this idea? Bounced through a bunch of different things and then came up with a solution.
Yeah.
With another man.
Yeah.
And the whole point of me even using that example is that, we need this community to help men realize that.
Yes.
Men need to bring the chaos to the other buddy I could bring you my chaos, and you're going to either validate me and say, "Yep, just go this way," or you're going to be like, "Dude, shut up and do this."
Yeah, I'm going to give you an honest layout to give you the most successful path based on my experience.
And it's important, though. That's why we have been working on this community, and we're going to have multiple tiers of the community. But our elite group is going to be more vetted people.
Yeah.
With very identical mindsets that don't want to deal with limiting beliefs anymore.
Yes.
That have overcome a lot of things, that are very close to having it all figured out, and they're very identical in mindset.
Yes.
Because it's important that those mindsets are identical when it comes to, not the same person, like we're still going to have diversity of like experiences and thoughts and things like that.
Yeah.
However, they're going to bring a level of success to the table that's really important to make the group better.
Yeah. And it starts with a spark, right? And how I can explain this is generally with men, the spark comes in any type of physical activity, right? Jocko often talks about, you want to solve your problems, go to jiu-jitsu. And he's not wrong. Like, you go to jiu-jitsu, it's super hard. You can do something that's super hard with other people that's super hard. All these guys are going to struggle together. At the end of it, you've overcome this, and you go, wow. It's the same thing with weight training. It's the same thing being in the gym. It's the same thing with doing any physical activity, right? It doesn't really matter what it is. There's a spark that comes with that, right? Which I feel a lot of men have missed. Like, there's a lot of guys training in the gym, right? And this is not to rack. If you're in the gym and you're putting in work, I don't even care if you just go in there and you spend 20 minutes on Stairmaster at level 2. I don't care if you're doing something well done, right? But then there's that level, and this is the level I'm talking about in our community, where you don't just want to be the norm. I don't want to be average.
Right.
I don't want to be average.
Right.
I've never wanted to be average.
Yeah.
Right. And it's not about trying to be better than someone. It's got nothing to do with anyone around me. I want to be the best I can be at whatever I do on my terms and my level.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the spark I'm talking about.
Definitely.
When I go into the gym, I don't care how much the guy next to me is lifting. I don't care how fast this person is, how many deadlifts that person can do. I care what I can do, and then I care how I apply it to myself and how I feel afterwards, and did I accomplish something, and what am I driving towards.
Yep.
Those feelings we want to rack into everything else we do. I get the same feeling when I'm able to walk into a business meeting, sit down with people, sit down with their business and go, okay, here's a solution, here's what you can do here, have you thought about this? And the amount of times that because this is what I'm good at, this is where the spark is. When you find the spark, and the spark is slightly different for everybody.
Yeah.
But when you find that spark and you go, and I watch someone's eyes go, well, I didn't think of that. Wow, we should apply that to the business. And you can help them set it up. Right. That is part of things I like solving problems.
Yeah.
I like looking at a problem saying, how can we make this work? Right. It's no different in the gym. Relationships are slightly harder because you're dealing with the female aspect, right? Especially the divine feminine, the feminine that's so fundamentally different to you. The way you can't, it's not coming to you. I have a problem, I walk in here, I can rant and rave for 30 minutes. You go, don't worry, it's pro buddy, it's all good. Cool, let's go do arms.
Yep.
Literally that easy. That's how it works with guys, right?
Yep.
With your spouse, it's not the same. With my spouse, I have to take her emotions into consideration.
Yes.
Right. So I have to always find that spark of trying to be better. I don't want to be average.
Right.
I don't want to be the normal. And it's not about anybody else. It's about me. I don't care what anyone else thinks, right?
Yeah.
I care what I think. And what I think is everything I do, I want to assess what I do and push to be at the highest level I can.
I want to say about the concept of I don't care about what other people think. I always thought I felt that way.
Yeah.
Okay, I truly thought, fuck you, I don't care what you think about me. I'm going to be me, tell you what I think, etc.
Yeah.
But I'll be honest, I would argue up until probably about a year and a half ago, I truly thought I understood what it meant, but I didn't.
Yeah.
And I've learned now through all the deep work that I've done and letting go, breaking chains, things of that nature, to where now, like, let's use the example of, I feel like, and I might be wrong with this, but I feel like there's a lot of men around our age, like men in general, even not necessarily, like that have, when it comes to like dancing, or like just letting go and having fun,
showing yourself as vulnerable
Yeah.
by doing something that you may perceive to not be masculine.
And we don't do it because of that, right?
It's like it's laughing your heart out in
Laughing at
public.
yourself, or it's a simple one. Your wife pokes fun at you over something.
Yeah.
And instead of getting defensive about it, you just laugh at it.
Yes.
You just laugh at it.
100%.
And I would tell you, like, I would be sensitive to so much of that stuff for so long. One of the things my wife would say was like, "Oh, you're just like your mother. She's sensitive." And man, that was a real.
Yeah, it's trying to rub it in
That
there.
one got me, right? Because I was like, I'm not sensitive like my mother. What are you talking about? And the reality is, honestly, did I inherit some of that from her? Of course. But the reality was I wasn't breaking free of my own chains, which is what created sensitivity. And that was just a couple's attack, if you will, of something that just triggered.
Insecurities and limiting beliefs.
Yeah. So until about the last year where I've really identified, and I would say even I'm evolving so much more and more each day. This podcast has helped me too. I have found myself to a place now where I finally can be like, I understand what it means to not care what other people think about me. Because honestly, like it's like we're out to prove to people or set that like, hey, I'm not average. That like we think we have to prove that, right? And like you said, like I never wanted to be average either, but I thought I had to prove it to other people. Because my wife even would say to me, she's like, there was this thing about you in the corporate world when somebody would be like, hey, what do you do for a living? And I'd be like, oh, I'm whatever title I had, right?
And you kind of weigh on the title.
It was self-serving.
Yeah.
It was self-serving on that because I like when I played baseball, right? Oh, I was a Division I baseball player, and the reactions, oh wow,
yeah.
Or like, you know, I don't know if you had that with wrestling, but like you would say these things and you would go, and the person's response was, oh wow, and then that was like this a dopamine hit.
Yeah,
that wasn't necessarily healthy for you.
No, so, it's trying to find adoration through others instead of finding that self-belief in yourself. It's a form of insecurity,
right?
And everybody, all of us are in one way, shape, or form guilty of it.
Right.
I still deal with certain insecurities in my life.
Sure.
And when I say don't care what others think, is don't misinterpret what I'm saying. Is because you made a good point when you said earlier. It's like, I don't care what other people think. No, that's a negative context. You actually really do care what they think, and you're saying that because you're trying to push against that narrative. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm saying is, when I go train, right, I really do care what happens to the guys who train around me, right? That's my brother. They're there with me. I'm not going to lose my workout. Trust me. It's like I've explained to everybody. I'm getting my workout, right?
Yeah.
You're with me. You're going to work out.
Right.
You start holding yourself back, and I see you're not pushing. I will literally say to you, listen, maybe you should go train on your own, because if we're training in this group, we're going to push ourselves as hard, and that doesn't mean that I want you to kill yourself. Go till you can't.
Yep.
Right? Rest till you can. I'm good with that. But put in the effort. It's all about effort. If you're not putting in the effort, we're not the right group for you. Right? It's about how much effort you put in. It's not about how much you lift. It's not about trying to keep up with anybody. There's no competition. You are your competition.
Yeah.
So it's about effort. So I really do care about the guys putting the effort in. I do care about the people that I am servicing. So if I'm helping someone, if I'm doing a service for someone, I really want you to get the most out of it. I care that you get the most out of it. But it's not about you, it's about me.
Yeah.
It's about what I want to do is I want to be the best version of myself, right? So that I can serve in the things I want to. I want to be able to serve my wife so that she has the best life possible. Right. I want to provide. The people around me that I care about, whether it be within business, or within training, or friendships, I want to serve them. So I do care what they think, but I don't care what they think of me, because I will always act in the best version of myself.
You know what I mean?
That's where the difference comes in.
I mean, what I'm hearing you say there is almost like selfless service.
Yes.
Where I, like this past weekend, again, I'll reference that. The reality is when you stop focusing on your needs and wants, and in some regards, like, and you create this version of yourself through the hard work and the disciplines and the habits that you've created through all this stuff, and you've removed these limiting beliefs, you truly can find joy in serving others.
Yes.
Your loved ones, those close to you. Like, you know, when you talk about, like, dude, you've been my biggest cheerleader whenever I've hit some PRs.
Yeah.
Like, it's fucking cool, the support and camaraderie we have with each other when it comes to, like, we don't really compete. Like, we compete in a healthy way. It's to push each other to make each other better.
To make each other better. That's that's the competition you want to define. You don't want to be competitive. I don't want to be good at something by pushing someone else down. Right. I want to lift everybody up. I want to start up here, and then I want everyone to get higher. And as they get higher, inevitably, I will drive myself higher. That is how you progress. And that's the same friendships, community, business. Yeah. It's about driving everybody around you up. It's about embodying being that human being. When I say I don't care about what people think, it's not that I don't care about what people think. I don't care what people think about me because I act in the best interests of being the best human being I can be. Yes. That is all I need to do. If I know that I have absolutely put everything in, I'm doing everything I can, I am working the situation, whatever it may be, and I am applying myself and I'm putting in effort.
Yeah.
That's what matters.
I think this is slightly hard to articulate, but the whole idea is that, like, when you're seeking this best version of yourself, like there becomes this place I know that I'm a good person. I know that I'm building this great person. I'm happy with what I see. I'm happy with myself. I'm happy with things that are going on in my world. Yep. I continue to push and pursue. And so because of that, I generally know that I don't have to necessarily worry or care about what others are saying or think of me because of what I'm doing.
Because it's about me.
It's about me.
What I do. It's about how I go. And it doesn't mean you don't make mistakes.
Right.
It doesn't mean that there's not learning. There's always going to be learning.
And I still have moments of, like, I hate to say the old me or an insecurity appears and resurfaces, but how you acknowledge and handle it's important.
Acknowledgement is the first step. Yes, I did. Right. I went through a nice long point now with my wife where we were trying to find those insecurities where you treat or you say things which are defensive, right? Which we all do, especially when it comes to arguments, especially with people you love, right? And went through a lot of thought processes trying to articulate, because I don't just want to do something. I want to understand why I'm doing it, because if I understand why, I can my brain can switch over easy into making that a habit, making sure I do that, right? So where it came from is I was consistently putting myself in a position where no matter what she said, I was always trying to justify it by saying that that wasn't my intention.
I've been guilty too.
That's all. I think most men do this, right?
Definitely.
And then I don't know what the trigger was, but there was a switch that went off when she said to me I thought what you did was with ill intent, I wouldn't be with you. I was like, okay, so what you're saying is you know that there's no ill intent, so I don't have to defend this. You already know that whatever I did was done with good intentions. However, the end action didn't give the results. And I was like, okay, so I take accountability for all these other things that I do, but in this most important aspect I wasn't. And I just switched in my head, changed since then, and I was like, well, I can see the differences, because that's what I'm talking about, right? There's a spark on everything you do, right? You could be dealing with a client, right? And no matter what you do, you could do everything that you perceive to be right, and the outcome may not be what the client wants, right? Who's responsible and accountable? You are. Even if it was something you couldn't control, right? Because if you're an expert in something and you're relaying that, so what do? I go to the client, I take accountability, right? It doesn't mean that they must forgive me. I'm not expecting forgiveness. I'm taking accountability and seeing how I can help them with the next step. They may say, pack your bags and leave. That's fine.
Part of it.
Right. But I need to take accountability for what I'm doing. And that accountability is what I'm talking about in Spark. If I go train, right, at the end of that workout, I take accountability. That doesn't mean that every single workout is a PR. It doesn't mean that I lift the most weight possible. That's a nice idea, but that's not reality. Right? The reality is every time that I walk into the gym, my goal is to get the most out of my body for what it is on that particular day. On that particular day, I might have a sore knee. On that particular day, I might not have eaten. I might not have slept well. But I'm still going to get the most I can get out of that workout on that day. Right. It doesn't always. It's not a competition with yesterday or tomorrow. You'll hear there's certain. I've heard this quote before. Be better than you were yesterday. Good fucking luck. Right. The world doesn't work that way. But what I want to do is I want to be for whatever condition I am in today. I want to be the best version of myself. Because not every day is the same.
That's right. And I've heard a lot of I guess influencers say, 1% better every day. Like, I get the concept of what they're trying to ultimately say.
It's motivational.
It is motivational. I think the key to all of this, in my opinion, is awareness, accountability, habits. Yeah. Right. To me, the habits is what matters, because, like you talked about, the days that you train and you're not necessarily 100%, your knee hurts or your back or whatever. Pick a thing. It's the idea that I still went. I still made it happen. I still got it done. I still followed the meal plan, or I did whatever I'm doing.
Out of it for what I worked with, what I had.
Yeah, so it's a habit, right? Yeah. And it's the idea that, like, and you hear anybody say this that's very highly successful in life and business, they'll say it's the consistent things over and over and over. Yes. I was just reading something this morning from a fitness person that was talking about the most effective way to basically, like, build the physique that you want is like literally years in and years out of consistency.
100%.
Like literally years in and years out. And like the guy that I'm talking to now, or that we're helping now, I'm like, dude, you're just getting started.
Yeah.
Like, you're 3 months in, you're not going to have those results that you want right now.
No.
And 1 year from now, you're still not going to have them. 2 years from now, you still may not have them.
And I've been training for 30 years. I still don't have them.
Right. So it's consistent
and
years.
They'll change. And there will be days, and this, we're talking now specifically on training, but this goes for everything. There's days you're going to get up that for whatever reason, right, and you could dig down into it. Maybe you have a low testosterone day. Maybe you didn't eat well. You didn't sleep well. You had a fight with your spouse. Doesn't really matter. But you're going to have those days you wake up and you go, I just don't want to do this. Now, here's the trick for that, right? Everything that happens to you, depending on how you react to it, either is short-term or long-term. Mm-hmm. Everything, right? Mm-hmm. I'm craving, right? I'm on a meal plan and I'm a little bit hungry and I'm craving, right? So that craving is going to be a short period of time. It doesn't feel like, when you're in it, it feels like it's endless, but realistically, it's going to last for a certain period of time.
Yeah.
Right. And then what I'm going to do is either I'm going to give into the craving and I'm going to go eat what I shouldn't eat, or I'm going to break out and then I'm going to have the next meal that I have and I'm good, right? And after that meal, you will 100% be okay, right? And the same thing happens on a day-to-day basis in everything you deal with. Some days you are going to get up and you just feel like the world is on your shoulders. Everything's heavy. Yeah. Nothing gets started. On those days, you don't say the word. You shut up. Do not repeat those things.
Right.
Like we've said before, is neuro-linguistic programming. If you say it, you make it real.
Right.
Shut up.
Yep.
Repeat. Even if you fake it, say, today's going to be a good day. Yes. Take a big breath. I promise you, if you do that on a consistent basis on those bad days, and you take the breath and you go, it's going to be good. We're going to have a good day. I'm going to make the best of it. Doesn't matter what happens today. Today, I'm going to make the best day.
Yeah. And I think a way to help people understand this is, like, when something goes wrong in your day and you say simply, here we go again.
Yes.
Well, that's a limiting belief. That is negative. That's not the way you want to go about it. It's the opportunity to solve a problem.
Yes.
It's the mindset and the position that you take on it.
It's the secret. It's the creating your own reality. It sounds like hoo-ha. It does. Like when you say to someone who's not in the right mindset, create your own reality, they think you're nuts.
Yeah.
Right. But what is that? What does that mean? And this falls directly into limiting beliefs. Your energy that you exude, how you show yourself to the world, how you present yourself from inside. It's not from outside. It's from inside. How you exude yourself to the world is going to determine what comes back to you. Energy begets energy.
I totally agree with that.
If you are consistently complaining about the world, you will surround yourself with the energy of people who consistently complain about the world, and you're just going to have a room full of complainers.
I've lived this, and one of my big things, like from a quote, I guess we'll call it a trauma that I had, but like I had a day where I was traveling after this thing, and I told myself, this was part of my evolving journey. I told myself on that day of travel that I was going to smile at everybody that I saw and be happy with everyone that I dealt with and have pleasant conversations, and I had a good day. Yeah. And it's everywhere. Like, even like, let's say
you made a conscious choice.
You make a conscious choice, and if you decide, like, everywhere I go, I'm angry, frustrated, and everybody else sucks. That's all you're going to deal with. That's all you're going to ever have a problem with, right? And make a conscious choice, right? I wanted to also go back, kind of wrap up some of my thoughts, but like you mentioned about with your wife and justifying behaviors, right?
Yes.
that to me is also a form of a limiting belief that we have in a relationship.
100%.
And it's insecurities that we have coming out, right? And so, and I'm agreement with you that I've done the exact same shit. And when we stop and recognize, like, a simple example of something could be like, I forgot to take the trash out.
Yeah.
And she says something to me, and I basically justify it and say, well, I was busy because I did XYZ.
Or, yeah, but you didn't do the dishes.
Yeah, there you go.
You're trying to justify it.
Yep.
And you're limiting what
you should
exactly
do
what you're saying
is just say, you're right. I forgot to take it out. I'll take it out right now.
Yeah, and then consciously just try to make that a habit.
And actually, to be honest, in an even more realistic one.
Yeah.
Where I went to the store to get something, and I forget what the item was, and she told me to remember to get it, and I totally spaced it and didn't get it. I get home, and she said to me, like, you forgot. And in the past, I would justify or get irritated or whatever, and I just said, I sure did. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm going to go right now and get it.
Yeah.
And her response was...
Took accountability.
Yep.
Because someone asked you something.
Yep.
You forgot.
Yep.
I'll take accountability. Don't worry, I'm going to go back and get it. That accountability is the difference between happiness and turmoil.
But you know her response?
Yeah.
Her response was, it's okay. Like, just get it tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, I want to get it now. She said, it's fine. Just get it tomorrow.
Right. So because you took accountability starts with everything.
Yeah. But I mean, look, dude, you probably know too, lots of fights to finally understand that, like, just those things.
Horrible fights. Like, just this back and forward. Again, and again, you're not intending to fight. But what happens is, especially as men, because we have such a different, we're built so differently to women, right? Is that how they're seeing the world is not how we see the world, right?
Yep.
I articulate, I'm giving you, applying the logic, this is what happened. You can't feel that way because it wasn't this. No, those things don't work, right? It's literally sitting down and, like I said before, just keep quiet, listen, and don't get sucked into rage, don't get sucked into anger, don't get sucked in trying to defend yourself.
Yes.
Let go of that insecurity, and I promise you, the world becomes a much sweeter place.
It does, and I'll kind of share a final thought around that where, two things. Basically, don't get in your own way.
Yep.
That, to me, is what limiting beliefs are. You're getting in your own way.
Yes.
Right? So get out of your way and stop that. And then when it comes to experiencing the world for the place that it is, when you remove the limiting beliefs, when you get out of your own way, when you get rid of the anger, because let's be real, like, our people around us as men, people feed off our energy, especially women. When you rid yourself of the anger, you truly can feel and experience things in life and relationships for what they're supposed to be.
Yes.
And that's a good place to be.
That's the only place to be. That's what you want to strive for. Are you going to trip up? Yes. Mm-hmm. Are you going to make mistakes? Yes. The most important thing is taking accountability for those and really honestly looking at it and going, okay, no more limiting beliefs. I take accountability and I'm going to find the best way to move this forward.
I like it.
Perfect. I think we'll leave it right there.
All right.